I'm RJ Eskow, and we are back on Take Action News. We have our next guest for you. We have Laura Friedenbach, who is press secretary of PCCC, which is an acronym whose meaning I'm told I blew in the last segment in leading and teasing into it. I believe it is the Progressive Change Campaign Committee. Is that right, Laura? Laura, are you with us?
I'm with you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Thanks for coming on the show and help me out since apparently I got it wrong. PCCC stands for what?
The Progressive Change Campaign Committee. I think you got it right the second time.
Okay, good. Well, that's a 50% grade. I'm moving up. Soon I'll be out of the F category into the Ds. Hey, thanks so much for coming on and seeing us. Obviously, we're looking forward to the start of what will be an election year. You guys have done a lot to try to move the composition of Congress towards the left and towards true progressivism. So tell us, what are your key campaigns you're targeting this year? What are the key issues? What are you looking at for the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, well, first, it's great to be on the show. And, going forward into 2014, for folks who don't know what the Progressive Change Campaign Committee is all about, we're working to build progressive power around the country. And so that means a couple of things for us. That firstly, we're trying to forward progressive issues and build momentum around things like expanding Social Security, holding Wall Street accountable, and forwarding campaign finance reform, things that matter to everyday Americans that really, really think should be on our congressmen and women's agendas. So that's step one. Step two is making sure that we actually elect bold progressive leaders who are going to forward these issues. And so we're really excited at moving into 2014, an election year, and being able to put forward some great candidates and help them win. Thinking about sort of the things that we're looking to highlight in 2014, I think it makes sense to think back into 2013 and some of the successes that we had then. And I know that Social Security is something that we pushed in the past a lot. I know it's something that's near and dear to your heart. And I heard I actually caught you on a recent interview saying that at the beginning of 2013, you were pessimistic. You didn't think that expanding Social Security was something that would be on anyone's radar or that we might not be successful in defending from cuts. Am I right?
Well, yeah, I never gave up fighting, but the odds looked pretty long.
Yeah, so I think it's important to sort of explain how we got from, I think a lot of people were in your camp, feeling like that the majority of Democrats were in this sort of defensive position, believing that, they needed to defend Social Security and believing that Social Security is important, but not leading the conversation beyond defending it from cuts. And we saw this as a problem. One of the things that we do is polling around the country. And so in our polls, we noticed that the majority of Americans agree that we should be expanding Social Security. Not only should we be defending it from cuts, but it's a vital program that a lot of our seniors rely on. And we thought it was important to work to expand Social Security. And we found out that the majority of Americans agree with us. And there was this disconnect between how the conversation was going and what. Well,
let me jump in for a second, Laura, and ask you about that disconnect, because a lot of people feel that disconnect happened because our progressive energy, if we want to call it that, was channeled into electing Democrats who told us they would pursue that agenda, which is the agenda that's not just Democrats or liberals want, but that most Americans want in many cases. And yet when they got into office, many of them did something completely different. So what do we do in addition to electing people who say the right things to make sure they do the right things?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's something that we're working on every day here. So one of the things we do is we start working with campaigns really early, sometimes before people have even decided to announce. We want to find those progressive candidates who we think are going to be really strong fighters once they get into Congress and are not only going to be writing legislation on this, but they're going to be partnering with grassroots and really pushing the envelope and pushing these progressive issues forward. So, think of people like Elizabeth Warren, who is constantly out there battling progressive issues and really putting up a fight. And so we want more progressives like her in Congress. And sometimes that starts with finding people and drafting them to run. We ran a Draft Elizabeth Warren campaign back before she announced that she was running, and raised $500,000 before day one of her campaign. And so now we're trying to do that.
I'm going to jump in just for a second and say that I owe you guys an apology, because I'm almost never wrong about anything. But I wasn't a big fan of that Draft Elizabeth Warren movement, because I thought she would get into office and just be another one of those over-compromising Democrats. But she's been terrific. And so I guess my question for you is, okay, we support you on that. We want more Elizabeth Warrens in the House and in the Senate. What do we do with the Democrats who aren't on the right side of this issue? Do we primary them? Do you guys go out and recruit people who will run as true progressives and represent the popular will on this stuff?
Yeah, it's a perfect question. It's a great question. And so what we propose and what we work towards every day is getting on those talking with those campaigns really early and presenting them with the polling data that we see on a daily basis, that, in states like Kentucky and Texas, states that are red states, in these places you find that you poll on issues like expanding Social Security, and the majority of Americans, even in those red states, believe that we should be expanding Social Security. And that goes...
Okay, we're running... Well, I'm sorry to cut in, but we're running out of time. Where can people go to learn more about you guys and your work? We got about 10 seconds.
Sure. It's boldprogressives.org. That's where you can go, sign up for our emails, and we will keep you up to date on who's running and who you can help elect in 2014.
Laura Friedenbach of the Progressive Change Campaign Committee, or words to that effect. Thanks so much for being with us. I'm Richard Eskow, and you're listening to Take Action News.